The news that a lot of us had been expecting for quite some time finally broke yesterday, finally went public. That despite having a miserable past couple years, when you look at box office failures, streaming flops for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that maybe the worst of all was yet to come. One last movie to release this year, and that is The Marvels, the follow-up to Captain Marvel that was originally supposed to be Captain Marvel 2, but then of course things changed. They decided to tie in Secret Invasion and Miss Marvel and WandaVision and all these characters, culminating in what's likely to be one of the most cringe entries we've seen to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A lot of people expected that this movie was not going to perform well at the box office, but we weren't quite ready for just how bad the projections are. First, Captain Marvel 2 box office projections are abysmal. And abysmal is an understatement. Abysmal would be something that didn't crack $100 million, because obviously with something like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I think had like $106, $108 million its opening weekend, that was abysmal. That was bad. That was a movie that lost money for Marvel. But considering The Marvels is one of the most expensive movies in MCU history, something like $100 million would be abysmal. But it's even worse than that. In fact, The Marvels, like we talked about yesterday, is tracking between $50 and $75 million opening weekend, which would be good enough on the low end to be the worst opening they've ever seen in history, going back to 2008. The Marvels is tracking to have the MCU's worst opening weekend ever. Long-range box office tracking for The Marvels suggests a less than stellar opening for the upcoming Marvel Cinematic Universe sequel. And yes, you look at these numbers, you can see pretty big drop-off from the first Captain Marvel. It's almost like if you don't have two of the biggest, most popular comic book movies in history, most highly anticipated movies in history, to sandwich it between and tell the entire audience that this is the most important movie ever to know what happens in Endgame. If you don't have that type of marketing to rely on, maybe this character isn't very popular. $50 to $75 million range for a total domestic run between 120 and 189 million. Now, these are just projections. It could go up significantly. It could go down significantly. And right now, as it stands, considering it's tracking, the pre-sale numbers are tracking 72% worse than Quantumania, it actually does have a chance to continue to go down when it comes to projections. But look at these numbers. This is the box office history for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, Avengers Endgame, $357 million its opening weekend. Wild numbers, insane numbers. We know how hyped that was. But to get to something like, I don't know, $50 million, like we've never seen before in the MCU, let's scroll all the way down to the worst openings in history. The Incredible Hulk, June 13th, 2008, had a $55 million opening. That is not adjusted for inflation, by the way. Those are 2008 numbers. If you did adjust for inflation, that would probably be like an $80 million opening weekend current day money, and that's not factoring a bunch of things. That's a really rough inflation estimate, but that's what we're talking about. But when you look at the Marvels, and you realize that the Marvels now potentially, that's a realistic number. It could be 55 million. It could be less than that. This is an all-time worst-case scenario for the MCU. We've been talking about it for years now. We've been talking about the problems, whether you're looking at the box office, whether you're looking at the streaming shit that they're putting out on Disney+. The announcement that they're revamping Daredevil, that they're admitting they haven't done it the right way when it comes to these streaming services, that is an indication that they know they've fucked up, that they need to make changes. Will that happen the same way when it comes to what they're doing in movies? Who knows? But one thing is certain. With estimates like that and a budget of easily going to be over $300 million when it's all said and done for the Marvels, this thing, in all likelihood, may end up not only being the worst opening weekend we've ever seen, but will end up, in all likelihood, being the biggest flop ever for them in terms of money lost on a project. We knew it wasn't going to be good. We knew nobody wanted this character or any of these characters, really, but this is what they decided. Kevin Feige, 2018, made the announcement they're going all in on identity politics. He was not lying about that. That's what they've done, and it's driven the audience away. And now when it comes to the Marvels, it looks like it's worse than anyone could have possibly imagined. Maybe the worst opening in the history of the MCU, going back a decade and a half. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.